Well, it is September 19th, and that means that the open beta is finally here. Many of you will hopefully be diving into Mythgard for the very first time, trying it out, and I wanted to showcase one of the features that Mythgard has that I absolutely adore. Now, Mythgard has a lot of features I like. Things like in-game deck tracker, things like replays that you can view, 2v2 is a game mode. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I can't wait to share with you. But if you're a new player and you're just starting today, this is one of the coolest things I've seen a card game do in a very long time. They're basically borrowing from MOBAs. If you play League of Legends, you're going to be familiar with this concept. League of Legends has what they call the free champion rotation. Mythgard has featured decks. Now, we're in the deck selection menu, the deck selection screen here, and we can see where it says try this featured deck. Featured decks are designed by community members and they rotate every Monday and Friday. So right now, our decks are this Darling's Witching Hour. Darling is the name of the player who submitted this list, and then Witching Hour is the name. And then we have Turbo's Token Hulkan, right? Now, this is a really cool feature, and it shows you potential deck lists that you can aim for, but also because they're a featured deck, you get to try them out even if you do not own the cards. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit view, and it's going to showcase the deck. And cards that are in orange here are cards that I currently do not own in my collection, but you get to go through and see what's in the deck. Now, this particular deck is orange and yellow, and it's a bit of tokens and control. It's a really interesting take. You have a lot of control tools, things like White Kadeho for gaining life, and that's going to matter when you're making so many tokens. You get board control in the form of things like Misanthropia, Vicious Cycle for removal. Excuse me, I'm scrolling in the wrong spot here. You get cards like Seal of Exile, Temptation. You get these control tools to buy you time and kind of reset the board, because the other half of the deck is trying to get kind of like slow incremental value out of very cheap creatures. So we have things like Eager Recruit and Parsa Regulars. Both of these are kind of like endless resource engines. I mean, they do have an end, right? But Eager Recruit's a one drop that basically gives you two creatures and access to two creatures. Meanwhile, Parsa Regulars here is a 3/3 that when it dies makes an Eager Recruit, so it kind of cascades down. We have great card draw options like Wonder Drug up here, Parry at the Gates. So this deck is all about kind of like grinding out the game over a period of time. And then when you really need to ramp it up and finish things off, you've got some big late game bombs, things like Solomon's Gale. This thing can get out of control if you do not deal with it. Things like Sapo the Devourer. This card is very difficult to kill because of the warded stat, and it destroys something, so it's a big tempo play. Universal Hulkan here. This is the kind of card that comes down as a 5/5 for 5, but the more you invest in it, the more ridiculous it gets. If you do all three of the options, if you empower it with all three abilities, you end up with a 7/7 Alpha Strike Overrun Armored minion. It is insane. So again, kind of control the board through a combination of tokens and your board removal till you can get to your bombs and or just grind them out in terms of resources. The tokens get a lot of help from things like Olama Ring, etc., etc. But again, really cool because it's a featured deck. You can play with this day one, right? I don't own a lot of these cards, but I'm going to go play with this deck right now. And if this deck doesn't fit my style, Mythgard is kind enough to give you 2 featured decks at a time. So if I don't like this one, I can go try out Witching Hour, right? And then they rotate Monday and Friday. Really, really cool concept. So again, this is what I wanted to showcase day one of the open beta. If you do like a deck, you can hit copy, right? It'll make a copy of the deck that you can save for later, so that even if you don't own the cards, but you just really enjoyed a list, you can copy it so you know what to build toward, right? You save it and you say, oh, I really liked that. This is what I want to work on crafting, and you can get that done. But I'm on this, so we're going to go ahead and, oh, I was going to say click select. So when you're in here, sometimes you have to click select to switch. You can also typically double click as well, but we're just going to go ahead and hit the old select. So I got the deck selected here, and then again, I'm going to go over here to play ranked. Again, I still have this selected and enter. So I can literally take a featured deck, day one, jump onto the ranked ladder. I just love this feature. This is very new player friendly, and it's new player friendly in a number of ways. It exposes you to a lot of different play styles, and it also just lets you try out cards ahead of time. It gives you things to like aim for. I just really adore this feature, and it's the first thing that I kind of wanted to show off for the game. Now, this is day one, so if you're watching this day two, because this is going to release on a Thursday, by the time Friday rolls around, it's going to rotate again, right? Decks rotate Mondays and Fridays, so there will be new decks to try out. But I really like this. They have mentioned that they're going to be adding in new deck lists. So the current featured decks were submitted by players that were in the alpha, and then kind of like approved by Rhino. And all right, so we are up against a AI opponent, believe it or not. Now, the matchmaking in this game also has this kind of cool feature where if for whatever reason, and we're just going to burn a card and pass so it can keep going, but if for whatever reason there are not players available, it will match you against AI even on the ladder. You get less points per win, so it's not like a great thing in terms of like time spent in trying to climb the ladder, but it keeps your matchmaking down. This, I don't know if is a feature that's going to stick around. Right now we're still in the closed beta portion. By the time it goes live, hopefully the influx of players who are waiting to try the game out will make it so that that's not really a requirement anymore. And no early game plays until we get to 3, but that's okay. That's okay. We got a lot of resources that we can generate here. So many Parsa regulars. So many, in fact, I think we can spare one. I was thinking about pitching an Oasis, but let's get in here and contest this.
Eternal.
Let's get in there and contest it. So they're going to use their power, which is essentially just healing themselves. And again, when the regulars demise, when they take a bit of a dumpster, they create this eager recruit, and then when you summon this, they create a Parsa recruit. So, like I was saying earlier, this deck is kind of all about just generating tons of resources. I think we're actually going to ship this back. We don't really need to draw cards right now. We have oh so many. And we're going to create the Kadeho. I had to second guess myself here because this used to be a different stat line. Now, we still want to play it because it's got the 4 attack and we want to contest, but for a minute I had to second guess myself because both the white and the black Kadeho used to just be 3/5s, I believe, at one time, and I very frequently will get them mixed up. But yeah, they threw the Bulwark down. This Thane is going to become very difficult for us to deal with unless we find more traditional, just straight up hard removal. So in this instance, I think we're going to ship... Actually, you know what? I think we're going to keep the Oasis because that'll help us buy even further time. Let's actually play the Oasis here. And we'll play this here because this will make this immortal until our next turn. So it essentially it'll soak, right? Like that's the beauty of the Oasis. It's not always as much about keeping the creature there alive as it is just like it allows you to play defense, right? You can just put up that wall, and yeah, I think we'll send this back. We want to get our mana up to like 6 or 7 so that we can start getting to the point where we can play 2 cards per turn, because again, we will ultimately end up with a large amount of resources, and we want to take advantage of that. So again, doesn't really get any damage in there between the mend and the armor, but the important part was that we didn't take damage either, right? Like, So we're going to move this so that we can cycle this, but again, just create the immortal wall. This is a very big pickup, very great pickup for us. Parry is nice. All of these are nice. And there are certainly cards that we would like to play. Sadly, this is not burnable. It'll yell at me if I try. You can tell because it has nothing up around the number, whereas these have this color, right? This tells you what you are burning for in terms of gem. And so really our choice is probably between the regulars and the parry, because we would like to get more orange gems. And I think we're going to go with the regulars, because parry's just also got a really powerful awaken ability. But we're going to create this over here, because we want to be able to give ourselves the option to start empowering that next turn. Unless something crazy comes up, typically the first thing you want to try to give it is Alpha Strike, because that makes it very resilient. But we will we'll go from there. Alright, so this ring is a very nice pickup as well, but it's not something we want to play this turn. But we do want to go to 7, and there's a reason for that. So we're going to do this here. We're going to go ahead and, like I said, give ourselves the Alpha Strike. We'll move this over, and then we want to start drawing cards. So we'll do this, and again, just play more defense. So parry draws a card. Then we do this. We want this seal for sure, because we want to be able to deal with this thing next turn. But yeah, parry is fantastic, right? It has an awaken of you draw a card, and then you divination 2, where you see the top 2 cards of your deck, and then you draw another card. So a lot of resource generation on a body. It's a very good card. But this seal, now we'll have to lose a gem and a mana, but the seal will allow us to just outright deal with this Thane. It's very important. Giving this Alpha Strike was a big deal, because now we can move over and play defense here. They would have to buff it. So we are certainly going to move this over. Again, we know we want to do this here. Let's also give ourselves armor, just to protect ourselves further from future spells. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll take this seal here so that we can deal with the Thane. Move this over, because we can either create the maze or the recruit. Maze feels correct. We want to start drawing cards as well. I don't think we're going to need 2 oases, plus again we would like to get some more orange gems. So we'll do that, develop the maze, end our turn. So maze is great, doesn't really attack, but we don't really need it to, right? Like, we really just want to use this sap to draw a card feature. And it starts to get better once your first ring comes down. That's the other nice part. Alright, so we are going to develop the ring here. We're going to go ahead and draw a card as well. That maze is nice. Now, maze is immobile, so we can't move it out, but it'll just end up dying here anyway. And we still have 3 mana left over. So we might as well, in my opinion, just finish this off. We could also develop the regulars, but they have 0 cards in their hand. So at this point we can save this to, you know, if they try to come over here and race us, then we can put it in as a blocker. But we'll just super power up our bomb, our finisher there. And this is one of our natural recruits, whereas this was one of the created ones. So this we can also throw back and just develop another maze over here anyway. So we can start drawing more cards next turn. And, you know, I pointed it out earlier. Our deck is designed to just generate a lot of resources, and we can see that in action, right? You know, we've got 3 cards in hand. We are getting pretty low on health, though, so it's a bit of a worry. We have a lot of ways that we can deal with that. We'll cycle here and draw a card to just wall up. And then this is a great pickup, right? This allows us to gain some health. So we'll also draw a card here. Again, resources. We'll just take the attack. We'll play this so that we can start gaining that health. And we will play here to gain some health. Play here to gain some health.
Reporting.
And then play here to gain some health, right? So
We have a mission.
now we have a nice, beautiful, full board. They're all powered up because of the ring. They're going to use their mend feature, but we are officially in control. We've hit that point in the game where this deck is doing exactly what it's designed to do. Again, we have Alpha Strike. If you're not familiar, Alpha Strike's like first strike in Magic, so that's why we attack and we deal our damage and they don't. So we'll do that. We'll move this over to make room for us to be able to create something there. We'll take this trade. We'll just draw another card here. We got plenty of other things we can play. Play the black Kadeho because we already have a white. So when you have these two wolves in play, the effects like kind of double trigger, if you will. So you'll see what I mean here. Let's make the maze.
Glory eternal.
And there you have it. And this is going to be it. We can just swing for the victory. Get that big overkill in. Now, you're going to see what I was talking about before, where if you do, for whatever reason, get matched up against the AI, my rank points will be, you know, smaller, only 15. When you're playing against actual human opponents, you can expect typically somewhere between like 30 and 50, at least in the early goings on. As you get higher up the ladder, it starts to go down, but you know, 15's nothing to write home about, but it doesn't matter. We got to win. And the point is, we got to play with a deck that we did not own. We got to try something out. So again, I just really like this feature. Like I said, if I wanted to, I could hit copy, and it creates it here. Copy of turbos. Anyway, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching. Go try out the game. I'm really excited for it. I think you should be too. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next Mythgard video.